Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi, and welcome to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm Marie Stella, your host from Melbourne, Australia. Let's start the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Reloscope. I am your host today, and my name is Lu. Welcome to the show again. If you're tuning back in, don't be so surprised because I'm covering for our other host. Today, we're talking about a topic that's very interesting in my personal opinion, which is conscious dating for authentic connection. I have been struggling with dating pretty much my whole life, so I'm very excited to learn more about this topic with our guest today. Today, joining us in our virtual studio is Karina Chapman. Karina is based in Adelaide, South Australia. A natural storyteller and facilitator with a background in business, education, and communication industries, Karina loves connecting with others. Karina is a dating coach, professional speaker, facilitator, and founder of the Aligned Connections program, which is passionate about sharing her message through her keynotes, workshops, and retreats. Thanks so much for joining us today, Karina.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you have a very impressive background and you do a lot of fun things. I think it's quite interesting because I think there's a part in your bio where it talked about how you think that, the authentic connections can help us in all aspects in life. And obviously romantic relationships would be one of those aspects, but not everything. So a lot of the things that you do seem to be about connections. And I find this to be quite unique. Not a lot of people work in this area. So I'm curious to learn more about your professional journey and why you chose to do this.
Sure. I guess I've always had that ability to connect with people through the work that I've done. So my background is in hairdressing and education. So you've got to be able to make a really good, authentic connection with people when you're doing their hair. Otherwise, they don't trust you. They don't think you're going to do a good job. And they may not want to come back. So I realized how important connection was, an authentic connection, really early on when I was working in that sort of industry. And then, of course, moving into education, you've got to connect well with the students that you're teaching. Otherwise, they just don't quite get what it is that you're putting down, and they're maybe not interested in listening unless they've got that great connection with you. So moving forward, then I was looking at relationships and connection relationships and how difficult people seem to find it to find the right person that they can connect with long term. And even how hard it is to be your authentic self in a relationship. And then I looked at my own relationships and thought, okay, so obviously I'm not doing something right here. I'm connecting great with people at work, great in friendships, great in all areas of life. Why am I not connecting well or choosing well in the romantic side? So that took me on a big journey of looking back at past relationships, evaluating what had happened, why I'd maybe chosen that person, and then looking forward to, right, let's use all the things that I've learned and learn even more. So I went on a deliberate journey of dating several people at a time, being open and honest around it, and doing it specifically to learn, not to fall in love. And I realized that none of us have any idea on how to create a conscious connection in dating. Traditionally, we look at somebody from say, in high school even. We look, oh, there's the cute boy, there's the cute girl. I want to date them. And we don't think any further than that. And of course, as we know, looks on the outside is not going to mean that in the future we're going to connect long term. So throughout my whole journey of looking at all the mistakes that I'd made and all the dating experiences that I had, I thought, I need to try and find a way to share this. So that then led me onto a path because I'd share with my workmates at the time all the different dating experiences that I was having. And they were like, this is so weird. You should write a book. And I thought, well, actually, I like writing books. So I started thinking, I'll write one book about this. And then I had so many dating stories that were quite weird and bizarre that I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to make a series out of this actually. So that's sort of where I started. And then from there, wrote about dating experiences in, an interesting and fun way. But then really thought I want to create a program so that I can pass on the knowledge that I have now to others who are looking for love, who have been finding it really difficult to be able to connect and find that authentic person that matches them well, and then share with them and teach them how it is that you can attract the right person and who they are. Firstly, who you are, and then who is the right person that's going to match, because of course it's different for everyone. And seeing that I'm passionate about connecting, then it's grown from there. So that's my basic journey of how I kind of came from where I was to now, and helping people to find their way through conscious dating and making authentic connection for love.
That's fascinating, and I love that. Thank you for sharing, because it's just it reminds me of this website. I don't know, actually, no, not a website, but it's a page on Facebook. It's called Bad Dates of Melbourne. I don't know if you know about that page, but it's hilarious, and it has so many bizarre dating stories as well. So I wonder how yours go, because I follow that page from time to time, and I just laugh out loud, reading stories on there. It's just so funny. Like there's just so much that's in there. So probably listeners will have to check that out to find out what I'm talking about. But talking about your experience, I see that you are the author of a few fictional novels, and I'm guessing that they are based on these stories, right?
They are. And for those that are getting to watch the video, I've got a couple of the books that I've written. So the first in my series is Adventure Vixen, and that's a modern dating tale where the character finds it's called a Vixen's Secret Handbook that someone gave to her and told her that it was hers, and she'd ignored it forever. And then suddenly thought, okay, I need to change what I'm doing in dating. Where's that old book? And it was actually a magical book that helped her to choose better in dates when she listened to it, but sometimes she didn't. So then there's quite a few disaster dates in there as well. And a lot of them are based on some of my experiences, which, was so much fun. And then, of course, my second one is International Vixen. And that's about defying dating rules and really questioning, why do we think Prince Charming is supposed to come and swoop us off our feet and then live happily ever after? Is there any reality in this? What about different races or nationalities? How well would we match with those? And do I need to follow the dating rules that are set out by society, or can I create my own? So it's really just questioning things that we're taken for granted and we're told from all the fairy tales and the stories. And I mean, if you think about girls, a lot of them have been planning their weddings since they were tiny. And if you ever ask a guy, have you been planning your wedding? He'd just look at you like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean planning my wedding? No, I don't have a wedding book. So, so there's a lot of pressure put on us women to think that this is the be all and end all, that, we need to find a man, get married, go on this journey of, meet, engage, married, children, etc., etc. But what if that's not happening for you? Or what if you started on that path and then fell off the cliff and, found that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be? So a lot of times we are disappointed when we connect with people because we haven't been taught how to do it properly or what to look for. And that's why we're always disappointed. We don't have the glass shoe thing. We haven't got the fairy godmother. We've only got ourselves. And so it's us that has to put the effort in and the work in to make sure that we can connect with much better quality people for long term.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, thanks so much for sharing your books. And now you've piqued my interest. I'm curious to read them. So if I want to pick them up, where can I find them?
Yep, they're on my website, which is karinachapman.com, or you can get them from Amazon or Booktopia. There's quite a few. So if you just search Adventure Vixen, and I write the books as well under KM Chapman.
Yeah.
So that's just slightly different than Karina Chapman, but you can buy through my website. That's probably the easiest. Otherwise, you can find them on Amazon.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Sounds very interesting and very aligned with our topic today. Before we get into the topic, we would love to get to know you better. And we've got this little segment called Have You Met Karina? So I'm going to ask you 5 questions to get to know the things that you love and the things that inspire you. First thing first, I mean, you're a book author. I'm sure you read quite often and you get inspired. So what's one of your favorite books?
I would say, well, my favorite author is Paulo Coelho, who's a Brazilian author. And my favorite book of his is The Alchemist. And the reason I love that one, I don't know if you've ever read that, but it follows a young boy's journey of trying to grow belief in himself, follow the signs, follow his dream instead of doing what everyone else sort of says. And I find that it's really, apparently he wrote it very, very quickly and felt like he had some sort of divine help in writing it. But it really gives a good insight into our own lives. You know, what are we doing? Are we following our dreams, or are we too scared to, and the fear is holding us back? So that's why I really love that one.
Yeah, I have read the book and I do love it. I have to say it's one of the strangest books I've read, but in a good way. In a good way. Because when I was like flipping through the pages, I'm like, okay, everyone's just raving about this. And then the more that I read it, the more I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Right. And, towards the end, it's just like, wow, this is why.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All
I
ties
really
in.
love that book as well. Yeah, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Great. So what about a recent favorite film of yours?
Oh, now I haven't really watched a lot lately, but I did watch again recently, Miss Pellegrin's Home for Most Peculiar Children. And
Ah,
it seems like it might be a child's movie, but actually it's an adult's one. And it's about
yep.
people that are different, children that are different, and they're sort of stuck in a time loop of protection. And I really liked it because it's got so many different varieties of differences between people of the kids, but yet they all pull together and work together as a team. So and face the baddies that are coming to try and destroy them, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed that. It was a bit quirky and a bit different, but I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I haven't seen the film, but I've read the books, and I read it a long time ago. So now you're reminding me of this great masterpiece that I should probably reread and watch the movie as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Now, I wonder if you're a podcast listener yourself, even though you're guesting a lot of podcasts.
I do listen to some. And probably the one I quite like the most is some of the episodes of Brene Brown or Oprah. So some of those are really insightful and touching, and you can really get growth out of them. So I think that's why I enjoy their podcasts.
Yeah, beautiful. I love Brene Brown. Thank you for sharing. And who do you look up to the most?
I think that probably the person I look up to the most is actually a friend of mine who has come on a very long journey of change and growth, and has changed her entire life around and created something completely different to what she once was. And I just really admire the strength, the determination, the ability, and the mental clarity that she gained in changing everything around. And from being, say, a hoarder, an alcoholic, someone that lost their child to suicide and had lots and lots of different challenges in her life, she's changed everything around to now be a mind shift coach and a professional speaker, and is smashing it out there. So really, utilizing her experiences to help others to grow and change as well. So yeah, I think she's the one that inspires me the most. And her name's actually Charlene Lynch. So she's a very inspiring woman. And I think it's good to have someone to look up to that you actually know in person instead of maybe a celebrity that we don't
Yeah.
perhaps know everything really about or what their real full story is. So yes, it's great if we've got someone in our own lives that we can connect with
Yeah.
and look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, it's quite rare to hear a guest talking about someone they look up to and they admire that actually, is someone in their lives. And, whenever I hear these stories, I'm like, this is exactly it. And I think it's actually quite close to my heart when you think about, this saying that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. It's so much better to look up to someone that is close to you. You can learn from pretty much every day,
Mm.
and they kind of help you to become better as well, right? So that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, proximity is power. And that is what the research does say, that, it's the 5 that are closest. So it's always good to think, who am I hanging out with the most? What influence are they
Yeah,
having on me? Are they pulling me
yeah,
down or are they pulling me up? Or am I maybe helping them up? Because that's okay as well. So
yeah,
yeah, lots of different
absolutely.
dynamics. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And finally, in this part, we would love to know a course that has really influenced you in life.
I think probably the biggest influence that a course has had on me was one that I did through Tony Robbins probably about 20 years ago. And that really set me on the path of realizing how important my values were in knowing them, how much they can change depending on different experiences that I've had. And what things are really important to me, because I think at that point I'd gone through a couple of different relationships and that weren't successful. And I was feeling a bit lost and I didn't even quite know who I was. So by doing that particular course, it really gained me the clarity that I needed to gain the strength and belief in myself again, that I could move forward in more positive directions and learn from the past. So yeah, that was a really impactful course that I did with him.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And it's great to hear that, it's been 20 years, but it still stays with you.
It sure does.
Great. So let's talk about our topic today. We are talking about conscious dating for authentic connections. And I think it's safe to say that conscious dating is probably a new terminology for most people. I'm pretty sure, if anyone is on their dating journey, they might have probably gone about it, and because there are so many dating apps these days, they just swipe, right?
Mm,
Screen the profile, swipe, and then go on dates. It's not really a conscious decision. And I've actually heard like many stories of many people doing that. So hopefully today's topic and today's conversation will really help our audience to redefine the way that they approach dating. And this show is all about romantic relationships. And we would love to know your point of view, when it comes to a relationship. How would you define a relationship?
So, a relationship is an ongoing connection that you have with someone where hopefully you add value to their lives and they add value to yours, that you enjoy each other's company and that you look forward to spending time together instead of thinking, how long can it be before I have to see that person? So, ideally, a relationship is a connection that we enjoy and that we want to
Yeah.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a pretty good sign, right? When you think about like how much do you want to see this person? Are you excited to meet them, to be around them? And I think it's quite also in alignment with your set of values and who you are. And sometimes it's at a particular point in time, right? It's not always the case, because sometimes, obviously, when you reflect on past relationship, you'll be like, oh, okay, at that point, I was excited to hang out with that person for that particular reason. It might not be the right reason. So that is kind of my segue into this question of, what are some of the misconceptions do you think people have about romantic relationships?
I think that some of the past relationships that we've had affect future relationships without us even realizing. We might behave or respond to a certain way someone's talking to us or experience that might have nothing to do with what's happening now. And not just in your romantic relationships from the past, it's all the way back from childhood. So, for example, if you had parents that maybe fought all the time, didn't treat each other well, and really weren't a great example of a relationship. As a child, you don't know that that's not a good relationship example. So you're like a little sponge and you're absorbing all this information around you, and you're not judging whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, because that's not what you do from the age of 0 to 7. So then, of course, we have to think, if that's your example of a relationship, then that's what you end up attracting towards you. So then suddenly you're in this relationship that you may be arguing a lot, you're not being kind to each other, and you think, hang on, this is pretty horrible. Like, I don't think I actually want to relate. If this is what it is, I don't think I want it. So things like that affect our choices now and who we choose. So we have to break that pattern from the past and create a new one so that we do actually start attracting the relationship that we would enjoy and want to be in, instead of one where we feel like we're perhaps walking on eggshells or uncertain or just not that happy, but staying there for maybe financial reasons or for kids or whatever else it might be.
Yeah, that hits home a lot, for a lot of people as well, because there are so many things that you've touched on there, and it's quite a lot to unpack, especially when it comes to the childhood experience. I didn't really think about it that much growing up, and now that I'm a little bit older, I've often reflected on, why I view relationship the way that I do. And obviously sometimes there are things that you say when you hang out with friends and it's just kind of, it blurts out, right? You don't really know why, especially when it comes to dating and romantic relationships point of view. And then sometimes it hits me, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I said that because of this trauma I had in my childhood, observing my parents. It's not really coming from a place of knowing what it is about, right? And that is exactly why I'm really curious to learn more about this topic of conscious dating, because I think it's going to play into this quite a bit. So perhaps we can start with conscious dating as a concept. As I mentioned to you earlier, to me, it's a new terminology. And I think for a lot of people in our audience, they might think that this is a new thing they didn't know about. So let's start with defining painting the picture, defining what it is. What is actually conscious dating compared to dating in general?
So dating in general is quite unconscious. We see someone that we like, we think's cute, we think, oh yeah, they look good. We see them on the app, we swipe right, we start a conversation and we meet up. So we're not really having a lot of thought past, oh, they've got a couple of interests in common with me perhaps, and they're cute. That's kind of it. But then often when you do meet them in person, you're disappointed, or they're not what you'd hoped that they were, or you just don't get on that well together. So that's the result that we have of our unconscious dating. And sometimes, yes, we can hit the jackpot and find the right one quite quickly and everything's great. But usually we tend to keep going on more and more dates that are unsatisfying. Because we're not really being conscious around what it is that we're looking for. Whereas in comparison, conscious dating is knowing first exactly what you're looking for. Because when you know exactly what you're looking for, then when you see it, you can recognize it. So I'll use an analogy for you so that the listeners can understand what I'm talking about. So say, for example, you want to buy a new car. Now, there's lots and lots and lots of different types of new cars out there. Different models, different makes, different colors, all sorts, right? So if I just think, oh, I want a new car, and someone goes, oh, here we go, here's a new car for you. Well, but that might not be what I want, because I didn't want that color. And actually I wanted, a bigger car or a smaller car or something else. So we don't just go, new car, oh, there's a new car, that'll do. We normally spend time thinking about things that are important to us. So, what's the car going to be used for? How many people do I need to have in that car? Is it going to be a work car or something that's for just myself or for the family? Do I need to have 4-wheel drive? Is it a sedan? Is it a 2-door? And what color do I want? What are all those features? Of course, air conditioning, heating, maybe you want fog lights, maybe you want a certain size motor. So there's lots of different things that you think about and your requirements of what's going to suit you perfectly. Even, perhaps you need seats that fold down so that you can pick up a ladder from Bunnings. I mean, there's so many things that we consider. when we're looking
Yeah.
at a new car. You know what?
Yeah.
That's just a new car. But when we know everything that we want, then when we see it advertised, we think, that's my car. That's the
Yeah.
exact car that I want. So then you're not
Yeah.
looking at all the other cars because you know they're not what you're looking for. This is the one you're looking for. So interestingly, we put all of this effort into looking for things that we want to maybe keep on a short-term basis or long-term, but it's not quite as important as the relationships that we're creating. So in conscious dating is doing all of that sort of stuff in the dating arena. So we're looking at who am I, what's important to me, what are my values that I must have someone match with, and what sorts of interests and behaviors is going to work with me, so that when I've got a list of that and I've got clarity on all of that, of who I am, of what's important to me, and even a vision of what I would like to see our life be together. So, for example, perhaps you love tropical holidays and you're imagining yourself and your future partner relaxing on the beach, going for, romantic dinners together and swimming out on the glass bottom boat, whatever it is together. But then you meet someone and they have no interest in going anywhere humid or hot and they only go to the snow. So is that a value that is something you can get past, or is it something that actually would be a deal breaker? So becoming clear on even little things like that makes a big difference. I mean, personally, I'm the tropical holiday girl, not so much the snow bunny. So then, if I happen to be in that situation, I would have to think, am I okay going to the tropical island by myself or with friends? Am I okay with maybe him going off to the snow with his mates at the same time? Maybe we can have different holidays together that don't involve either extreme. So it's about, can I compromise enough, or am I an absolute no, that's not going to work for me? And a lot of people I've noticed lately that I've worked with, camping is one of their deal breakers. They don't want to go on holiday and just camp with no facilities, no air conditioning, no. So if a guy's sort of saying, this is my weekend, then you're probably not going to match well. So the more consciousness that we can create around who we are and what we want and what we see the vision of our future together with a partner looking like, then it's much easier to find people that match a lot closer, and then you get much better dating experiences because you've already checked on their profile. Have they got these things in common? Are they interesting enough that I think, I would like to meet this person? And they've got all these things that they've written or are saying that are matching values. So let's spend the time to meet up and see whether, what's written is matching in person. So yeah, the more clarity that we have, then the closer you are to being able to find the right person and you're consciously dating. Because I can tell you what, a lot of times when people are swiping, they're swiping, and that's a really good looking one. You read down the list and you're like, haven't really got much there. And you look back at the photo and you're like, but they're really cute. And you kind of have to say to yourself, no, step away from the hot man or the hot woman. If they're not for you, they're not for you. The outside package is a bit, tempting sometimes, but it's the inside that lasts. So that's what we want to look for.
Yeah, I love that. I think this is a really great start to, redefining how we go about dating. And personally, I'm not a dating app girly, so this it's kind of like not really something that I know of. But I have heard stories from friends where, they would say, yeah, this is what I want. They tick all the boxes, like I'm gonna go on dates, and oftentimes what I hear is that, they go on a few dates and it's really great. They seem compatible. Everything sort of, checks out. They start, an official relationship, and then something still is off, and then, it still doesn't work out. So I think being conscious is one thing, and having the experience is a whole other thing, right? It doesn't mean that if you're consciously choosing the person, that it's going to be like, yes, jackpot. This is like one time thing. I have chosen the person, and that's it. I think because like this is going to impact the way that they go about dating a lot, and it's good to know that once you start being conscious about who you date, your dating experience and your relationships would be so much better. But it doesn't mean that it's just like choose the one person still,
No,
right? Because
absolutely. And
it's
there's
still
more
a hit or
than
miss.
that's right. And there's more than one person for each one of us out there, because they might be on paper, all the list is ticked, but the energy vibe isn't there. The attraction isn't there. Maybe they do one thing that you think, not sure. It's a bit of a red flag. So it definitely does make a difference, I think. But
Yeah.
also, even if, say, they are a great match and maybe you could have a long-term relationship, you have to make sure that you don't self-sabotage accidentally, because that happens a lot. And that's all to do with our subconscious layer from past relationships and past experiences. So, for example, if we don't have positive beliefs that support us, like if I don't believe that there's any great guy or girl out there for me, there just isn't anyone out there, then guess what I find? No one. And I've heard a lot of women that I work with, oh, there's, all the great guys are taken. There's no one in my age group that's attractive to me. Oh, there's, never anyone out there. Well, guess what? If they're going to keep finding that. They're going to find no one out there because that supports their belief. Whereas if you change your belief around to something that would support you, it would be something like, there are heaps of great guys out there that would love to date me. And that just has a different frequency.
Yeah.
And then it helps you to connect with those great guys that are out there that would love to date you. So our beliefs and our sabotage thing kicks in without us knowing. So even if we think, okay, I know who I am and I know what I want, and that's the conscious part, then we've still got this subconscious thing that's like our hidden enemy that's doing things to undermine us. So
Yeah.
even, for example, one of my clients started seeing this guy and he ticked all the boxes. And I mean, she had pages of boxes. So there was a lot to tick.
Okay.
But he did. And when they first started going out with each other, she was really excited. This is all great. And he said to me, oh, I'm punching above my weight. And I said, really? He goes, yep, I'm punching above my weight. I said, you need to stop saying that, because if you don't stop saying that, she's going to realize that you're beneath her, that you're punching above, that she's better and that she needs someone better. He's like, oh, hang on. What? But I was only trying to give a compliment. I said, I know you were, but you're better off to say, she's really fabulous and I love being with her and I love our connection, rather than I'm punching above my weight. Because then it's like you're not worthy of her. And if you keep saying that, maybe one day she's going to think, oh, he's not worthy of me. I am better than him. I'm going to find someone else. So that's how we can self-sabotage and not even realize that we're doing it, and then cause problems to relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny you said that, because I'm reflecting on my own experience. That's exactly what I told my boyfriend, because he's like, you're a little out of my league. So, you're going to cut me some slack here. And I'm like, I don't like you saying that.
Yeah.
If you say that, we should not be dating.
You're exactly right. Yeah. Because you do start thinking, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should be looking for someone better than you then, even though I thought I was quite happy with you a second ago before you said that.
Yep, exactly. So I think it's also important to remind our audience a little bit about this, because obviously they are listening to us, they are creating the list, and they might start going about having the boxes that they have to tick, and putting themselves in a mindset where they're a little bit more conscious about who they date. Now, as we mentioned earlier, obviously it's going to take, there are plenty of people for you to date. It's not like, it's just going to be one person. And then, if that person doesn't work out, and then that's the end of it. So, if if you have looked at your clients and, all the people that you've worked with and also in yourself, what is the thing that has changed? So let's say previously you just go about dating and like, it doesn't work out. Now you've shifted to the conscious dating mindset or, the conscious dating mode. And you've noticed some changes in your romantic relationships in general. So what would the impact be?
On yourself in having those experiences that are different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it helps build your confidence. It helps make you realize that, you know what? There are people out there that would love to date me and I have great value. Because the more that we value ourselves, the more that we love ourselves, then the better we are at setting boundaries, at recognizing red flags, at seeing people that aren't being authentic or honest with us and when they're presenting themselves. So I think it can make a really big difference in how we feel and what we accept. So, for example, I always tell my clients that like attracts like. So, and what I mean by that is that, one thing that's similar will attract another thing that's similar. So, for example, if you only love yourself a tiny, tiny little bit and that's it, and that's all the confidence you've got as well, like very small, that's what you attract. Is someone that's only going to love you that little bit. And we all deserve much more than that. So if we can work on increasing our self-love and our self-worth first and telling ourselves how fabulous we are, because we are and we've forgotten it, if we remember, then that actually becomes far more attractive to so many more people. It's not about the outside. You can have a very, very average looking guy or girl, but if they've got buckets of confidence, if their body language is positive, if they, exude this confidence and, it's magnetizing. Even if they're not good looking as a traditional outside look, they are so compelling because you just think, oh, what's happening with that person? I think I need to go and know that person. They look like they could be really fun or interesting or, so confidence really attracts. So the higher the confidence and the more the self-love, then the better the result is that you will have in your dating as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it sounds like a lot of these things start with ourselves. It doesn't really start with, defining who we want, but actually getting to know ourselves first. And there are a few keywords that you mentioned there, and I would love to pick on those. For example, values. I think that's very important. I've heard this a lot from people, where they say, you need to know your values, your set of values, and you need to see if the values match. And for a lot of people, they might start to wonder, okay, so what exactly do you mean in terms of values? Because, it's so vague. Like, I don't know where to start. So maybe we can start with the self, right? So let's say somebody is listening to the podcast and they're like, okay, I'm going to start going out dating consciously from now on. I need to know my values. I need to know myself. Where can they start? What are some of the tips that you can give them to get them to know themselves better in order to date better?
Absolutely. So in my programs, we do work through this very intensely together. We have a massive long list of values that we start with, and we whittle it down to the top 10. So you can find online lists of values that can give you a starting point if you're not quite sure where to start at. But the values are things that are really important to you, and they're beliefs that then shape your behaviors in life generally. So if you believe that being honest is one of those things that you really value because you're always honest to others and that's what you expect back, then if you meet someone that is always telling little lies, it doesn't feel like it sits right with you. So then they're not matching in that value. So then you'll end up feeling repelled from them because you value honesty so much. And it can be all sorts of things. It could be, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're single and you really want to find a guy or a girl, get married, have kids, that's one of your aims, then whether a person wants children or not is a very, very high on your list value at that point. If you really want children, then you don't want to match with someone that says, no, I'm not really keen. Well, maybe I'll change my mind. No, I probably won't. Because then they're not in alignment with you. So one of my clients, he's in his late 30s and he's never wanted children. He found this wonderful one, started dating her. They didn't have the hard conversations early enough. They started getting feelings for each other. And 3 months in, so she was 36, he was about 38. 3 months in, they had this conversation, and in that conversation, he found out she is desperately wanting to have children. And he was really shocked. He was like, uh-oh, well, I definitely know that I do not ever want to have children. And so next thing you know, they're having this breakup. They're feeling awful. And it's just terrible because there were so many things they connected on. But that was so important to her. It was a deal breaker. And same with him. He was not going to change his mind. If they'd had that conversation much earlier, then they would realize that their values weren't in alignment. So that's how important having aligned values are and knowing what they are. For those that are maybe in their 40s or 50s, they may be into the point of like, I definitely don't want kids, or I've already got kids, or it's okay if you've got kids, but I don't want to create another child now. And if someone's still saying, oh, no, I really want a child, well, you're probably not going to be matched with the right person if you go with me then, if that's the case. So it's surprising how many things values encompass. Even, it might be religious beliefs, it might be values of loyalty, of support. It might be something that you didn't have before. So, for example, if you were in a controlling relationship that you found difficult to get out and you feel like you lost yourself, then one of your top values at that point, straight after that relationship, would be freedom. But then say you have another 2 or 3 years of dating casually, and then you meet someone and they're a great person and you've got no problem at all there, then freedom may not be a top on your list now because you didn't have it denied for so long now. So something else might be more important, like maybe it's adventure, maybe it's having humor together, maybe it's creating a new vision for the future of what you want to be. But your values always change depending on the circumstances that you've had in life. So everyone's values at 20 would be completely different from then to 30 to 40 to 50. And when we have different experiences in our life, that impacts what our values are in importance, changes it around. And then, this is what we base our behaviors on. So it's not only just in our romantic relationship that we want to match values. We want to match with our friendships as well. Because say, for example, someone was really terrible with time. They didn't value your time. They're half an hour late. They're 3/4 of an hour late. They haven't bothered even messaging you to say. Then you start thinking, hang on a sec, I'm always on time for you. I value your time. This isn't sitting right with me. Or you may be the sort that you think, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm pretty slack with getting, there on time as well. So we match well. So even little things like that can make a difference as to whether you'd want a long-term connection with someone or not. So romantically or in friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good point. And you reminded me of this situation. Actually, this is like about a friendship that I used to have, and the view was actually on dating and on relationships. And it's very clear to me, for example, in one of our conversations, that this particular friend does not want to be in a sort of equal relationship. She wants the man to be the provider, and, she does not want to lift a finger, or, does not want to pay for anything. And that doesn't sit right with me. But obviously I really valued the friendship at the time. So I was just like going with it. And I thought, you know what, like, it's fine. We're different in terms of our views. It's okay. But then whenever we talk about this, and this is a frequent topic in the friendship, right? Because, dating is a big topic.
Yeah.
It just creates this tension. Like whenever I hear it, I'm like, oh, something doesn't feel right. And so, this is exactly is reflective of what you were saying, where, you reflect on your own value and then you see if the relationship is right for you. And this applies to friendship, to, romantic relationships, and to other relationships. So, having the hard conversation is probably easier in the friendship context, I guess, because, like you're getting to know someone and you throw a bunch of topics at them. But I think in the context of dating, it might be a bit trickier, because how do you go about asking someone like, oh, do you want kids, like on the first date or the second date? That might be a little tricky, right? So I guess, for a lot of people that are, going about consciously dating, they probably don't want to sound too aggressive or, make it like an interrogation. So what would be some of the tips that you can give them so that, they can screen the values, but in a tactful way, so that they don't really scare people away?
That's right. We don't want to come with our massive, big, long list and tick it off and it's like an interview. They'll be running out the door.
Exactly. Yep.
But what we can find is values that they talk about within stories that they tell you. So, for example, if someone told you a story that they thought was really funny and it involved some sort of fraudulent behavior, but being honest and truthful and having integrity was really important to you, then they would feel the same as you felt. That bit of an icky feeling that that doesn't really sit right with me kind of feeling. So, and that's just through a story that they're telling. So if they thought it was funny that they were able to get away with something that maybe wasn't above board, and you felt terrible about it, or, just that that's not really my cup of tea, then that's your internal warning that there's a value not being matched here, that this person's at opposite ends to where really you want to be. So we don't have to actually sit there and ask all the questions. We're just consciously taking notice of, how do they talk about their friends? How do they talk about their families? What stories are they choosing to share with you? So that can give you some more insight as to whether they've got things that are matching in values or not. Like, are they completely separated from their family? They want nothing to do with them because there's massive arguments and all of that sort of stuff happening. Then maybe you're really close with your family and you're hoping to find someone that is also close with theirs. You don't even have to ask the question. They volunteer the information. So, and you want something that's going to be natural and feel like it's not contrived. So if you do want to know about the kid thing, then find a way to work that in. Maybe there's kids at a table nearby, and you say, oh, look at those kids. Gee, they're sitting really well, aren't they? And see what they respond. They might be like, oh, I shouldn't have kids in restaurants. Or, or they might be like, oh, yeah, they are really cute. Especially cute when they're that age, don't you think? Then you think, oh, maybe this person's open to having kids in the future. So then it's a segue in to say, have you ever thought about having kids yourself? Or, so you're very casual, not like, do you want children? How many children do you want? Put this down on the list. No, that doesn't match mine. See you later. So we're not going for that. But, if we're good communicators and we're being conscious, we can work it into the conversation to make it sound natural. And in fact, recently I saw an article on people that are specifically doing that. And they're hitting all the hard questions in the first date. And I think good on you. As long as you can do it in the right way that doesn't sound like an interrogation, then you're not going to waste your time or their time if you realize that, no, our values aren't matching. So thanks very much, but no thanks.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's a really nice way to go about, asking these tricky questions and ticking off the boxes without making it like an interrogation and scaring people away. So, that's a great start. Obviously, some people might find it harder than others because, communication is not something that everyone is great at. It takes practice. So I guess, bottom line is, it's got to go on more dates and keep practicing.
Exactly. And, they even have a term for it now. It's called future proofing. So if you're wanting to future proof, make sure that this person, either, has the right values or, has interests or whatever in common, then, you just go all in first up. And if they tick all the boxes that you can find for that particular date, then you're like, okay, I've future-proofed enough that it's worth going on another day with that person. So,
yeah.
But yes, it can be quite a challenge, and you do have to be a good communicator. So take it slow, I would say. Take a few days to find out.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've covered quite a bit in this part already, and I have so many more questions. But in the interest of time, let's move on to this next section where we get a little bit more practical with, the tips and tools that we've talked about today. This is called Habits and Practices. And we did talk about the fact that, there's so many things that we need to think about and start doing differently to go about, conscious dating. So I would love to know from your perspective, if someone is starting out, maybe this is a person that's never gone on dates before, or this is a person that has been through a lot and then they want to get back out there and start with conscious dating rather than just dating anyone. What would be a practice or a habit that you would recommend for them to start trying so that, the dating journey is a bit more conscious?
I think the first thing that I would suggest would be to raise up your own level of self-love and self-worth. And you can do that really easily by doing something as simple as mirror work. So if you've never heard of that, it's basically as simple as standing in front of the mirror, looking at yourself, which some people find it hard to do, even just that. But then you want to start saying nice things about yourself. So maybe, you look at yourself and you smile and you go, "You're awesome. Look how amazing you are. You're going to smash it today. Your confidence is just getting higher and higher. You deserve the best in life." So if you're coming up with things like that and looking at yourself and telling yourself that, then that does help to increase the level of self-love and confidence that you have. And we don't want to go out before we do that and start dating. We want to increase that confidence level first so that we are confident enough to step forward. Otherwise, a lot of times we're introspective. We're like, "Oh, I'm probably too tall, too fat, too thin, not their style. Maybe I don't have anything in common." And we pull ourselves down before we even get the chance to connect on a date. So the biggest thing I would say first before you start anything else is grow that confidence and tell yourself how fabulous you are and start believing it. And it might take a while. A lot of my clients say they feel really silly looking at themselves, pointing in the mirror going, "You're awesome." They just think, "Oh, that's so stupid." But after a while, you start thinking, "You know what? I am awesome. I am awesome and I can do anything. And there's going to be a great person out there that will be lucky to have, a date with me." And then that's the attitude that you want to go in. So that would be the first really important thing that I would get people to do. And the second as well is just more consciousness on your values so that you're starting in the right direction with who you're choosing to date instead of just going for the hot looking guy or girl that you maybe traditionally would have done. We want to break those patterns so that you can get a different result and something that's more positive in the romantic relationship side of things.
Yeah, that's such a great advice. And thank you, because I love that it's about ourselves, right? It's not about like, oh, make this list of criteria or, like ask that person this question. It starts with the self. And I think self-work is so important when it comes to romantic relationships, so that we can actually become conscious because, how can we be conscious in dating if we don't know who we are, if we don't, set ourselves up for success sort of thing. So,
Exactly.
like I think this is something everyone can do. And it might sound cheesy, but we can find different ways to go about it, right? I remember there's this Friends episode where I remember Rachel was going on a date with Ross's girlfriend's dad, and that role was played by Bruce Willis, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. And yeah, he was looking at himself in the mirror and he was giving himself affirmation. It was actually very cheesy. I think he was saying something like, "You're the man," or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember what exactly he was saying, but it was like a very funny segment in that episode. And it's actually reflective of what you're saying, even though it's quite funny and cheesy, but it helps and it should work if you go about it the right way. So not everything needs to be comedic, but you know
No,
what?
and we don't. So I think sometimes people make it too hard, where it
Yeah,
is that simple. We can just boost
yeah,
ourselves up by, saying these affirmations, or perhaps starting to listen to them as you're going on your daily walk, or while you're in the shower, put them on or something, because it's about changing that subconscious level to know that what, you are worthy. You are a person who there'd be a lot of people that were lucky to date, and you know, without knowing that yourself, then how can you attract that person that, could be the one for you? So it makes a big difference when we can do that self-work first. And also, of course, getting rid of the subconscious things that are sabotaging us take a little bit more work because they're on the subconscious level. But if we start with the consciousness of growing that confidence and self-love, then that's definitely, you're on the right road to start.
yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for that advice. And, this is a great practice that we can take away from today. And before we close, we have an open mic section. As I mentioned to you earlier, before we started the recording, this is where we would love to know about anything that you would like to share with our audience, any passion projects or anything that you're passionate about that you would like to share. So take it away.
Thank you. I think probably the thing I'm most passionate about at the moment is that I've changed my one-on-one program to enable it to become a group program, because I find that so many people are struggling in the dating area these days and they really need some extra help. So if I can do group courses and help them to learn all about themselves and how to stop the self-sabotage and how to move forward, then I can connect with so many more people and help a lot more people. So that's the thing that I've been really excited about. In fact, I hold masterclasses every 6 weeks or so. I just did one very recently. And that's to sort of give people more information about what conscious dating is and how we self-sabotage and how we can stop that. So yeah, definitely the group course is very exciting for me because not only do they get to connect with me, but they also connect with other singles who are in the same journey as them, having the same problems, and really can empathize and understand, the journey that you're going through together. And it's great to have that connection because even if in that group people have got different values, the one thing that connects them is that they're all looking for love and they want to support each other and help each other grow through that. And sometimes we don't have single friends that we can maybe go out with or connect with or discuss this dating stuff with. Maybe someone that's been married for 20 years has got no interest at all in talking to us about this. So it's having others that are on the same journey as you that you can connect with. It's getting really clear on who you are, who's going to be that great match, how do we stop self-sabotage and what do we do to change that? And then how to connect and attract that love that we really want. So, and I find that I get really passionate about it because I see the results and I just see the happiness that just exudes from the people that have found their great match. And there's nothing better to me than helping someone to be able to connect and do that because I am such a connector. So having that new sort of aspect of the group course makes it more affordable for more people as well to do and also increases connection. So that's what I'm really passionate about at the moment. And we've got a new course starting early in next year and there's rolling groups going all through next year. So and I keep that small groups as well because I still want to have that intimate connection. I want, the people that are in the group as well to be able to connect with each other. And, if you've got too many in the room, it's impossible. So small intimate group programs where you still get a really great benefit. And of course, the best benefit all of attracting that love that you really dream of.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thanks again for joining us today. Just before we wrap up, to reiterate your contact and your websites to our audience in case they want to find out more about your work or, maybe follow you on social media, where can they find them? Where can they find you?
Sure. So my website is karinachapman.com. And there's a lot of information on there. And I always have the next masterclass time and date on there as well. So you can always click on and register for that. And they're free. I don't charge for those. Also, you can connect with me through LinkedIn or on Facebook. They're probably the most commonly used ones that I'm on these days. But probably the website is the easiest because you've got all the information and also you can contact me directly through there if you've got any questions. So always happy to answer.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us, Karina. It's been so great chatting to you.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at re.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.